Welcome back to The Price of Business. I am your host, Kevin Price, talking about you and your business. Got Tina Jesson on the program. She's with a company called Tina's Traditional Old English Kitchen. And she is growing a tea party catering and pop-up tea room service concept nationwide. Right now, a local company. As you know, we've been doing a series of shows about local companies about to go national. This is one of those companies. Tina, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you.
Glad to have you on the program.
Lovely to be here. Thanks so much for inviting me today.
Tell us a little bit about your story. That doesn't sound like an accent that is of U.S. origin. Sounds very British. What part of England are you from?
I was brought up and raised for the first 40 years of my life in the Midlands, a little city, little area called Derbyshire, right in the Midlands, about 100 miles north of London. Very rural. I had a fantastic upbringing, raised by my mum, my gran, and my great-gran, which was very popular at that kind of time. And I learnt the art of farmhouse cooking. Which is really the fundamentals of how I really got started in doing the business I'm in today.
Interesting. My mom was from Pemberton, which is just outside of Wigan in Lancashire. And so I spent many a summer in Pemberton, had a great time, loved it a lot. It was a great experience. And so tell us a little bit about your company. Give us the elevator speech, if you would.
Well, I came out to the U.S. In 2008, and I was looking for something to do, and I'm a big believer when you're starting a business that you need to be authentic, and I'm British. A lot of people noticed that, and a lot of people would listen to me just because I had this peculiar accent, and I thought, well, what is it that I can do that's very British that people can't really get here in Indiana, which is where I'm located now. And what I was finding was that a lot of the British food that we eat in the UK is not really known that well here, but there's a great interest to anything British. So I basically took that concept and taking the idea that, I've always baked all my life, and I have some great family recipes. I started doing that, and I basically started selling via farmers markets just to test out the flavors and what people got and what people didn't get, and that was a fantastic learning experience in itself. But now what we do is we do afternoon teas and a pop-up tea room service in the Indianapolis area of Indiana, and the business has just grown phenomenally. I've only been doing this for 2 years, and I've never made so much money in such a new business before, and I have owned businesses in the past when I was in the UK. So that's really where I'm at right now.
Very cool. Tell us a little bit about I guess you could say milestones in the history of the company. When you got started, when did you realize that you could go national, that type of thing. Kind of give an overview of those milestones.
Yeah, well, like I say, I came up with when I first moved here, I thought, wouldn't it be great to do something with food? But I was really nervous about coming out to an American audience as a British person, because I know we have some history, and I wasn't really sure how I would be accepted. And I did go and see a life coach, and, I said to her, I'm thinking of doing this thing, but I'm really not sure if I'm brave enough to go out there and do it. And she said, Tina, give it a go. Just go out and try. She says, I'm sure people will love it. You already know that when you open your mouth, people just listen to what you have to say. So just try it. So that's really where I started doing the farmers market. It's a very low cost entry into the marketplace. I'd be paying something like $10 a day on a Saturday, and I'd go to this farmer's market, set my little booth up. It was a lot of work. And last year in Indianapolis, we had some extremely hot weather. So not only was I baking in my kitchen, I was then going out in 100-degree weather selling this stuff. So it was pretty grueling work. I did a heap of research and found that as a home-based vendor, I could cook from my home kitchen and sell via farmers markets. But what I also realized, that was the only channel I could use to sell my baked goods was via a farmer's market. So when people started asking me, Tina, do you do tea party catering? I went, oh, well, I suppose I could. Obviously we have afternoon tea all the time in England, but I'd never served it before. So what I started to research then was what would I need to do to be licensed as someone who can do a tea party catering service, and that meant getting involved with the health department. And I was actually fortunate enough to find a commercial kitchen that rents time by the hour. So many companies actually hire this kitchen space, which is licensed via the health department, and I could actually make all my stuff there and cater tea parties. So that was a big milestone. That took me about 6 months to get to that point. And that went pretty well, but it got expensive, and I'm paying an hourly fee. But then I looked at the alternative. If I had my own tea room, what would that cost me? And I was finding that by the time I've got premises, I've got equipment, the overhead was so high, and the margin in food service is not huge. So I was trying to think, well, how can I do this? And I'd read somewhere heaps of research. That's the only way of really working through these issues is researching. And I come across someone who had said, why don't you either go to a church or find a restaurant that had some spare capacity to see if you could actually share premises and still have that licensed environment. So it took me about 6 months to get to that point, and I managed to find a local restaurant in the end who actually had the bar, the restaurant, and then they had a banqueting area and a separate kitchen for the banqueting suite, which was great because they only used it in the evening. Well, what was I looking to do? I was looking to do afternoon tea. So we partnered with a great little restaurant, and I offer these afternoon teas at the restaurant once a month. So we call it a pop-up tea room. So I'm only there one day, gone the next kind of thing. But I was also able to do my catering service from that venue as well.
Okay, so I'm looking at your site, tinastraditional.com, Tinas traditional.com. When you first get there, there's a cake with kind of like a light powder over it.
Yeah, that's a Victoria sandwich cake.
Yeah.
This is a cake named after Queen Victoria, made in the 1800s, and it's a very popular, very British cake. And we have strawberry jam and cream in the center, and it's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I've eaten that before when I was back in England. I remember that. You simply don't find those things very easily here in in the U.S. When people think bakeries, they don't typically think British bakery in the U.S., but they got some great items, and it's really fascinating. Your company model is very interesting too. Have you ever thought of trying to do something in connection with like the conservative Tea Party organizations?
No, it's funny you say that actually, because when I first started promoting my Tea Party service, I was getting quite a few political emails, and I had to explain that was not the kind of tea party I'm involved with, but it is afternoon tea, which I thought hadn't even entered my mind. Obviously not having the heritage here, but yeah.
I hate to tell you, Tina, you blew it. You should have just said, "Yeah, sure, we do that." Where do you want us? We'll be there with our tea just for your event. Absolutely. And I can see it now. I mean, you could have a little canister going around giving people tea while they're protesting. You could make a fortune off of that.
I never thought of that. I just it threw me so much because it was like, no, that's not the kind of tea party, and it just hadn't occurred to me. But we do a lot of events with things like we work with the American Heart Association. I do a lot of talks on the history and health benefits of tea. I've really got into tea, the drink, as well as tea time, the food, because those two things really go together for us in England. And I think the fact that I'm British and I'm offering something authentic helps immensely to get that story across. And I think that's important. It's not just about the food or the service. It's really giving people an experience. And it's a little bit of England on the plate without that expensive airfare back there.
Yeah, Tina Jesson has been our guest. Cool company. I want you to learn more about it. TinasTraditional.com. That's TinasTraditional.com. You need to learn more about her. Thanks for being with us today.
No, thank you very much.
All right, when we come back, much more for you. We want to remind you the best content here can be found over there at usdailyreview.com. By the way, you're listening to The Price of Business.